Get this going here. Make sure all my screens are up. All right. All right, we want to welcome you to this education presentation. I guess I'm slowing down because now that we're getting ready to start, I just got really excited. We have a awesome person with us today, Buddy Norman, who is the author of Shift Commercial: How Top Commercial Brokers Tackle Tough Times. Our local CCIM board, we were having a board meeting and just trying to talk about how we could serve our members and friends in the industry better. This is unprecedented times in all of our lives. The COVID and quarantine has affected us all in many different ways. I joke around, I've never been, and I teach at Prairie View A&M University. I've been teaching online for 3 years. I've used Zoom for 3 years, but I have never been on this many Zoom calls in my entire Zoom life. And we have a Zoom bingo card that we have on some of my Zoom calls that we make fun of, as far as, kids running in the background and things of that nature. And so I say all that jokingly to say that these things have just changed tremendously for us personally and, of course, professionally. And so back in 2006, 2007, 2008, that was my business and honestly financial Armageddon in the original Great Recession, as they call it. And so I'm an avid reader. I'm a low-key nerd. I'm a cool nerd, but I'm a low-key nerd just the same. And so I was reading about different books to just kind of give me some hope. And I came across this book, again, Shift Commercial: How Top Commercial Brokers Tackle Tough Times. And it really helped me focus on what I needed to do and gave me hope during that time. If you guys remember 06, 07, 08, I had never seen that anything like that in my career at the time, and I've been in real estate about 12 years at the time. So with that being said, when this started to happen a couple of weeks into quarantine, I was going through some books and I picked this back up and I read all of these little tabs here, started taking notes. I was taking pictures, and something just hit me to say, hey, I wonder what Buddy talked to our CCIM chapter. So I stalked him. I found him on LinkedIn. I reached out to him on LinkedIn messages, and he, unlike a lot of us, checks his LinkedIn messages on a consistent basis and responded. And thus, we have him here today. So let me introduce him properly. Buddy Norman is currently the VP of Real Estate Development and a partner with Vertical Bridge, the largest privately held cell tower owner and operator in the United States. Previously, Buddy was the founder and past president of Keller Williams Commercial, the commercial division of Keller Williams Realty International. He joined Keller Williams in 2008 to lead the development and growth of the company's new commercial real estate division that had at the time 2,100 commercial brokers nationwide. And so he has been in the business for about 25 years. He started with our favorite quarterback, or I'm not a Dallas Cowboys fan, but Roger Staubach and his company. And so we are just pleased to welcome him today. Welcome, Buddy Norman. How are you doing, guy?
Kevin, doing great, and thank you so much for reaching out. I'm thrilled to be part of the CCIM chapter in Houston. I am a native Houstonian, so I feel for you guys right now, and want to hopefully give you guys a lot of encouragement and opportunity out there in the marketplace.
Well, I appreciate, I said this before we got on, I just appreciate you taking the time out to do this. I just think it's important, our chapter thinks it's important that we give our folks tools and just ideas, something that, sparks for whether you're a new commercial broker or you've been in the business like I have now for 22 years. I think a lot of the stuff that you talked about in 06, 07, 08, or this book was published 09 and 10, still applies today, maybe with some nuances, but still apply today. So I'm glad you agreed to talk to us. So for those of you that are just logging on, we're going to do this kind of fire chat style. We do have a slide deck, but Buddy has encouraged me to just remind you that he loves questions during the presentation. So feel free you can ask questions one of three ways. You can put it in the chat feature in the app. You can use the Q&A button at the very bottom. If your question is a little bit more involved, you can feel free to click on the raise hand button at the very bottom of the app and literally raise your hand, and I can call on you throughout. We'll probably take some breaks throughout to answer questions submitted either by chat, by Q&A, or by raising your hand. And so again, I just want to encourage you, let this be interactive. I know a lot of you are on Zoom calls, as I joked about at the very beginning, but we want this to be an interactive webinar. With that said, just a couple of announcements before Buddy gets started. First and foremost, this is brought to you by the CCIM Houston chapter. Our website is ccimhouston.org. CCIM Houston Gulf Coast CCIM chapter. And so just wanted to acknowledge the fact that I appreciate Matt Moak, our executive Ginger, and all of the board for allowing us to do that. And then, of course, we always want to give a shout out to all of our sponsors for the year. This has been a trying year for our group as far as not being able to meet, because we are a meeting group as far as luncheons and things of that nature. So we still appreciate your overall support. And I would be remiss not to encourage you to check out our website. And in our website, you will find more events like this. You can see right here that we have our current event that we're at now, How Top Commercial Brokers Tackle Tough Times webinar. But we also have a June webinar with JLL coming up on June 4th. Then we have our golf tournament October 6th. You can come out there and dig holes like I do when I play golf. That's what I do. I dig holes and hold beer. But we have a good time when you do that. And so I'll put a couple of pointers up here. You can click on our events. If you're interested in being a member, you don't have to be a CCIM to be a member. But with that being said, we would love for you to become a CCIM. You can find out what that process is. And then I am your education chair. So I guess I introduced myself. My name is Kevin Riles. I'm a broker owner of Kevin Riles Commercial. We're an investment brokerage here in the Fort Bend County area, in the Houston area. And then I also serve as your education chair for the 2020 year on the CCIM board. And so we provide the CCIM classes and things like you're seeing today to just provide value for our members. So I would just encourage you to go to ccimhouston.org to check that out. Good information out there. We would love for you to join and become a member, and you get access to things like this and other things that we put on throughout the year. So with that said, that's my CCIM Houston Gulf Coast chapter commercial. Hopefully I get good points from Matt and Ginger and all the board members on there. Check, he did the commercial. So with that being said, buddy, I'm gonna allow you to get started. And as I said before, I'll just drive the slide deck. And again, this book, I'm putting it up, is available on Amazon. Buddy didn't ask me to say that. I'm saying it myself. I think it's important. And it won the National Association of Real Estate Editors Bruce Award in 2012. And so, buddy, I'll let you get started here if you want to start with the slide, and I'll keep it going.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Kevin. And first, I'd like to maybe chime in on the CCIM Institute. You know, as a commercial real estate broker, I believe there's no better training on a national level than the CCIM Institute provides to their brokers. And then number two, it's a great brotherhood and sisterhood of connections, not just in Houston, but literally nationwide. So if you're not a CCIM, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to go through the training and then join the CCIM organization. So keep up the great work, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we go maybe into the slide, I know that, you know, Houston's really been kicked twice now, and, you know, one with the oil, the collapse in the oil market, and then now with COVID. Kind of my message is, you know, this too shall pass. And guys, I'm a big believer in technologies and our medical technologies. And, you know, we are literally spending, you know, worldwide, think about this, probably hundreds of billions of dollars are being spent right now on the COVID, on either a vaccine or treatment. So if we don't have a vaccine, I'm highly confident we're going to have treatments for it, Kevin. And then that way, I think the fear level of the COVID is going to go down dramatically, because people are going, gosh, I jump on an airplane, I get the COVID, and then I could die. Okay. And well, that's a real fear. And I know there's a lot of people that probably, are listening to this right now that COVID may have touched their family, but technology is going to prevail. And the big pharmas and people like that, we're going to come up with treatments and vaccines. And again, I think this too shall pass. So there's one word of encouragement. Number two, maybe I don't totally agree with Trump, and we may see a V recovery, but we're going to see a recovery, guys. And as soon as we get the treatments and the vaccines and people start traveling again and business start opening up again, you're going to see this economy. I mean, literally, the U.S. government has pumped trillions, not just billions,
right,
but trillions of dollars into our economy. And so that money is going to get, flushed out into businesses and so forth. So I do see a recovery, more of maybe a W-shaped recovery than a V-shape. So we may have some stumbles here over the next, quarters or two, but we're going to see a nice recovery in our economy. So that's number two. And then $3 billion, and I Googled this before we came on, is literally 67,000 miles. If you stack $1 bills up, it would go up 67,000 miles, Kevin. Wow. So we are spending, we've spent what, $2.5 trillion, and so we're almost halfway to the moon on $1 bills stacked up. So I'm not an economist, but I've studied a lot of economics, and at some point in the near future, we're going to see inflation. Okay, we're starting to see the CPI. We're starting to see some food prices and things like that start to tick up. And we've kept interest rates at a very, very low rate for a very long time. But at some point, maybe in 2021 and 2022, we're going to start seeing inflation coming into this marketplace. And what's probably the number one best hedge against inflation? Well, it's hard assets, right? It's your commercial real estate properties, residential real estate properties, and things like that. So when you're talking to your investors, again, I'm going to go through more tactics in
right.
the book. From a macro standpoint, to me, if I was talking to my investor today, number one, you can borrow money at historically low levels today. So money is out there, money is flush, borrow it. In fact, I'm guilty. I just purchased a very expensive home here in South Florida, Kevin, because of those two factors. One, I have the cash flow to be able to do it. So I'm fortunate in my business. I can do it from a financial standpoint. Two, I see inflation coming. And three, I locked in 30-year paper at 2.75%.
Wow. So
the banks are giving me money basically to borrow money against this home that I'm buying. And so I think that also applies to commercial real estate investors, and really what I want to talk about, small business owners. I think it's an optimum time for them to convert their leased assets into an owned asset, buy the property, get your SBA loans in place instead of paying the landlord rent, build equity in your property, and that's a great hedge against inflation. So,
but buddy, I what I hear, and I know we're going to talk tactics in a second, but I just heard a script being developed when I'm doing my calls as to why now versus why wait, especially with cheap money being out there, and specifically as to the owner lease versus owner occupied. So for those of you out there again that are trying to come up with something to, what do I tell my clients and things of that nature, I think that last point is especially important when it comes to a story to tell. And you're telling a story based on facts. It's not literally a story, but that this is the time. And I will say personally, buddy, that I was in a couple of transactions here right before the storm, and lenders put pause. Commercial lenders here locally and one nationally kind of paused for a second, and now I'm getting a call saying things are thawing out a tad bit, maybe with a little bit more equity requirement. So I think things are starting to pick up from a lending standpoint.
Yeah, and commercial real estate investors hopefully are not looking 1 and 2 years out. They're looking 3, 4, 5, 10 years out, just like I am with my home purchase. I'm not looking 1 or 2 years out or 6 months out. I think too many people today, Kevin, are focused, gosh, what's going to happen in the next 6 months? Well, I think, again, things are going to work out. The vaccines and the treatments are going to be coming. This COVID is hopefully going to be in the rearview mirror. And at that point, it may be too late to take advantage of the pricing. You know, the house that I bought was priced, you know, probably twice what I just purchased it for. So I'm getting the COVID discount today, I'm taking advantage of the marketplace. I'm able to buy this asset at a more of a, you know, a bargain price point, locking great paper. I've got the cash flow to be able to acquire it. So those are the type of investors that if they have that type of financial backing, this is a great time to be a buyer.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I also heard it's a party at Buddy's house in a couple months after this.
Come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead and click through.
Sure.
Let's dive in.
So today's goal.
Unfortunately, the darn slide, you got to keep clicking it because it's gonna. There you go. Just
yeah. Well, that's always the good part. That last part that just dropped in there.
Keep clicking, Kevin. There's more. There you go. So today, you know, we're going to talk about how to make more money in a challenging market. So, okay. Next slide. So really, we kind of talked about the mindset, guys, and I think especially today, there's a lot of fear out there, and so be positive, proactive, be confident in our economy, be confident in our medical technologies again, because a lot of people right now are just nervous to do anything. But you know, the smart people are going to say this is a great opportunity to take advantage of the marketplace, to lock in, you know, long-term money, you know, on my investments. So I'm going to pull the trigger today versus, you know, wait down the road for everything to clear up. Let's go ahead and dive into some of the tactics, though.
Sure. I just wanted to remind everyone that what you see here is Buddy's basically the chapters in the book. So if you have the book or if you download the book, these are the chapters in the book. We're going to concentrate, just for time's sake, on a couple of these tactics. He calls them tactics in the book. So we're not going to go over every tactic, but we decided to kind of go over blocking and tackling today, because I think that lends itself to this webinar feature. And then also, but I highly recommend that you get the book, and so that you can kind of read those first couple of tactics as far as especially doing more with less. That really helped me, Buddy, in 2009. I started basically managing my expenses differently after reading that chapter. I used to feel like I needed to look like I was in business versus be in business. I don't know if people understand that, but and I realized that people don't care about that. You know, so I just wanted to shout that out before we move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, basically, I don't care who you work for. You basically have a business under an umbrella. Either you have a sole proprietorship business like Kevin, where you have your own practice, or if you work for Keller Williams or CBRE or whoever it may be, you basically have a business within a business. So manage your business like you own it, especially from a P&L. So manage the money that's going out. Make sure the money today has a direct tie, not just an indirect tie, but a direct tie to your production, because right now production is key, cash is key. So manage your business like a business, not like you're working for this big company.
Hey, and real quick before we get to the blocking and tackling, what was the impetus for this book? What was going? I mean, not just the Great Recession, but how did this come about? I guess I should ask you that just in general. What made you guys get together and write this?
Yeah, Gary Keller, who again is the founder of Keller Williams Realty, and when he hired me, you know, he's a prolific writer. He's written a book called MREA, a Millionaire Real Estate Agent. If you haven't read it, it's a great book, and it really talks. There you go, you got it as well. So thank you, Kevin. So when he hired me, he said, "Hey, we're in a challenging marketplace right now." He had actually just written a book called Shift, but it was really more applied to residential real estate. But a lot of the tactics that a residential agent or broker is going through could be applied. So I simply took the tactics. I then went and interviewed commercial real estate veterans like Mac McClure and people like that that really had been through marketplaces. And I said, what are you doing right now, Mac, in this challenging marketplace? So I interviewed the brokers, and then we took those notes, compiled it into the Shift commercial. And then really that's how we grew Keller Williams Commercial in a country, teaching exact, the slide presentation is probably, 10 or 12 years old, because I would go around and teach this presentation in a live format from city to city.
Got you. Now, what I definitely picked up on is that this is kind of a best practices book after, you interview people to be able to do that. All right, so tactic number one, we talked about how do you start your typical work day?
Yep. You fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that's, I'm a big guy on quotes and things like that. So you really got to plan today. Again, this kind of goes back, own your business, own your P&L, own your expenses, because, you're the one writing the checks and so forth. And then make sure on the next slide, Kevin, really talk about, you sow an act, you reap a habit. You sow a habit, you reap a character. You sow your character. So your destiny as a commercial real estate broker, Kevin, are the actions you take right now. So if you're going to be a successful, profitable commercial real estate broker today, in the future, what are you doing today? What are you doing tomorrow to make that happen?
Yeah, and I'll say this as well. I'm reading another book called Deep Work right now. It talks about basically time blocking and being able to do deep level, high level thinking. And one of the things I read the other day that said, don't let your inbox manage your day. And I've fallen into that habit, unfortunately, during this time because we haven't been able to go out. So I started looking at my inbox and doing, instead of planning my day and doing that, I started letting my inbox plan my day, and that's not a good place to be in.
No, because what you're going to find is you're going to let the inbox dictate what you do every day, and then some of the business development activities that you should be doing, you're not going to be doing. And if you're not out there hunting and fishing for new prospects, your pipeline's going to dry up. Yeah. And so this slide, it's more of a joke a little bit. I mean, commercial brokers stroll into the office, talk about how tough the COVID market is, talk about, your football teams or whatever it may be. That's a commercial real estate hobby. And today, more than ever, you really got to make this your career and time block, as we talk about, and make sure you're doing your proactive efforts to keep your pipeline filled, to keep your transactions flowing properly, to get them over the finish line. So today, more than ever, I mean, we're going to see a cleaning out in the commercial real estate, brokerage arena. The people on the left are going to be working for, another company probably in the next 6 months. And the people on the right, even though the pie may be a smaller, there's going to be more opportunity for that aggressive, hungry broker to go get their, as Gary calls it, your unfair share of that pie. Okay. Well, to get your unfair share, you got to be in column number 2.
Yeah, I will admit, again, I'm just talking about quarantine. It's real easy to be on the left. Just because things are going, but here in the last 3 weeks or so, I've tried to get back to the right side of that in making sure, because I always tell people that we really work 60 to 90 days out. What I do today will have effects for my income 60 to 90 days in the future.
Absolutely.
And as you get to this next tactic, this also helped me. I started using virtual assistants after I read this chapter 12 years ago, and I've used virtual assistants ever since. So,
and technology, I mean, I didn't even really have that back then, but exactly point on. I mean, there's so many tools out there today, virtual assistants, people to help you put your marketing materials together, make it look really polished, instead of you having to sit there and spend, hours and hours refining your presentation materials. There's tools out there, there's people, there's virtual assistants to be able to help you do that. On this point, in my commercial real estate career, and I was a broker for almost 20 years, Kevin. So, I started every year with 0 production. Okay. So every, year I had to say, okay, where's my pipeline? Where's my income coming from? And as you said, the previous year kind of set up my current year's production. So you're working this year for next year's payday, as I say. So you better be focused on it. You better be building your pipeline. And what I did, and probably more than ever today, I would still do it. Okay, one, cut your expenses down to the bone. But the one area that I may maybe splurge a little bit is business development. And I guarantee you, simply all I did, Kevin, I went to my local colleges. I put up a little flyer that said, learn commercial real estate. And I put it like in the MBA department of the business school. And I would get 20, 30, 50 MBA students calling me up saying, hey, I'd like to learn more about commercial real estate. I'm getting my MBA right now. I've got, 5, 7, 9 hours a week that I can give to you. Well, perfect. One, you're getting a very smart, motivated, aggressive, and hungry asset you can add. Number two, you're paying them minimal money, especially today, okay? And I was paying, $8, $9, $10 an hour. So you're talking maybe $60, $70 per week for some very smart person to come in. And even though it said learn commercial real estate, really what I taught them to do was help me on my business development. And they would help me with my mailers, my emailing campaign. And they would actually even call prospects within my office. And I'm going to maybe talk about that here a little bit later on. They would call prospects, qualify them, and then hand them off to me once they were qualified. So especially in a marketplace like today, you better have, I call it, 5 oars in the water. Your prospecting should be both cold calling and mailing campaigns and blogging and technology tools. You better have 4 or 5 oars in the water today. Found in my commercial real estate career, having one, in fact, when I was a commercial broker, I had 2 or 3 part-time students working with me for 18 years. Now, they would go do other things after, 6 months or so, but you could train these people very quickly to come in and help you in your business development efforts. So today, if you're going to spend some money, allocate $50, $60, $70 a week for this smart intern to come in to help you in your commercial real estate business development.
And one of the things that I can remember Gary talking about in a seminar was fire fast, hire slow. That was one of his, I've always remembered that. But when it comes to virtual assistants or just even the college students right now, he always talked about training and making sure that even if they're coming in to do this part-time work, making sure that they understand your systems and how you do it. And you just can't say, well, here's the kind of the old school, here's the phone book. I know we don't have phone books anymore, but here's your internet search engine, go forth and bring me leads. You really do have to sit down with them and do that. I've learned that the hard way, even with virtual assistants, whether they be domestic virtual assistants or international virtual assistants, that you still have to treat them, quote unquote, as an employee and train them. But I also agree that right now, I've had quite a few friends who have college students that had to come home early and have called me to say, hey, what you got up there? Even volunteer. They just want to get them out the house so that the house can be a safe and happy place. So there's a lot of talent out there that's looking for something to do right
now. That's exactly the point. There's a tremendous amount of high quality talent. A lot of them will probably almost do it for free, as you're saying, and with a little bit of training. And again, I had my assistants working literally in my office, so I would hear them, see what they're doing on a continuous basis, and that way I could modify what they're doing to make sure they're laser focused and they're productive.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And just to pause here, guys, if you have questions or comments, again, just a reminder for those of you that are on, you can submit them via chat. You can put them in the Q&A button, or you can hit the raise hand button at the bottom. So please feel free to join in the conversation. Don't want this just to be between me and Buddy. If you have any comments, questions, please feel free to let us know. All right. And that was kind of your math there.
Yeah.
All right. Where the rubber meets the road. Lead generation.
Yeah. I mean, be prospecting based and marketing, and especially, I mean, we've really talked about this. You need to have 4 or 5. the mailers, the email campaign. Next slide, Kevin.
Sure.
And I have interviewed, lots of brokers, and I've seen a lot of very, very smart brokers that are broke because they're not doing business development. I've yet to meet what I call a machine who's a marketing prospect guy. He may not be the smartest guy in the world, but if he is focused on business development, I'm yet to see that guy be broke, okay? So the next slide really talks about that on the pyramid of commercial real estate. Yeah, it's not the market, it's not just your skills. One more slide, Kevin.
Sure.
There it is. So these are really the pillars of a commercial real estate career, and CCIM is imperative in the mining and the learning about commercial real estates and the grinding and the negotiations and things like that. And those things are essential, but the bottom of the pyramid is really right now where you totally need to be focused, because again, you can be the smartest broker in the world. If no one knows about it, you're going to be broke today. So we're going to talk a lot today about making sure that you're, one, focused on the right type of marketplace, and then number two, you've got massive action going after those prospects.
And we have a question. Scott Rubenstein asked, what are some good sources, ways to vet virtual assistants? And I can take some of that as well. Scott, I've used, it used to be called elance.com, but they now are called upwork.com. Upwork is a freelance finder, basically, for those virtual assistants, both domestic and international. You upload what you're looking for and a budget that you're willing to pay, and literally people from all over the world respond. You can vet them with questions. I also am a big believer in the DISC profile. And so anybody that works with me, whether they be an agent or a assistant, I have them fill out a DISC profile. And for those of you, that's a personality test. And DISC stands for dominance, interactivity. It just left. Yeah, it just left me. And I give the test. What am I doing? Dominance, interactivity. I can't remember what S and C all of a sudden is.
Social? Isn't S social or?
No, S is C is conscientiousness. I'll get it beforehand. I apologize. But anyway, long story short, I'm a high I. I like to talk. Obviously, I don't know the details because I couldn't remember DISC. So I have to hire detail, Scott. I have to hire people that will pay attention to the details. And so I can do details, but I have to really make myself do details. People that are high I and high D dominance are typically your sales folks, your drivers, your talkers. They get the business done. I need to, once I get the business done, hand it over to somebody to kind of process the business. So the way I vet VAs is I make them take a DISC profile analysis, and then referral as well. There are also some VA companies out there, and I just can't think of any names. If I do while we're doing this presentation, I'll reply back to everybody. But there are some VA companies out there that do all the vetting for you, and you can use them to basically do that, and they kind of set up the interviews for you as well. So, that's a few things here as well. Influence and steadiness, steadfastness. Thank you, thank you, Ann. Phew, man, appreciate it.
What was it?
So influence and steadiness or steadfastness is the S. Yeah. So dominance, influence, steadfastness or steadiness, and conscientiousness. I have to S and C. I have to hire S and C. Those are your detail-oriented people, your thinkers, your introverts typically. I am not that. And so I've realized over time that that's just not my skill. I can do it when I'm forced to do it. So the contract processing, the transaction management, the reminders of follow-ups, I have to hire that. So typically when I'm using a VA, my weekly e-blast, the weekly podcast that I do, I have to hire people to do that on a consistent basis, or it will not be consistent because that's just not where I'm strong. So Scott, I really do believe that giving them personality tests, but also giving yourself one so you know where you're on that spectrum and what you need. And Scott, go ahead. Again, I took that just because I use it all the time. So.
No, I'm a total believer in it as well. In fact, my current company, there's a number of tests very similar to the DISC. We use one called the ADA, and there's a number of companies out there. Two things. Number one, yes, test yourself to kind of see where your strengths are, and more importantly, where your weaknesses are. As you've done, you're not good on the details, so make sure you have someone on your team to be able to help in that area of need. So totally, every person we hire, we give a DISC or an ABA to.
Yeah. All right. You guys keep the questions coming. I see you in the chat. I appreciate you. And we had a comment in the chat that said, basically said, amen to you, buddy. Teresa says, this is so very true, buddy. You must remain diligent in business development. So in the church, we would say amen. I think that was an amen to you. All right. Where can we find these awesome leads, buddy?
Well, again, business development, it needs to be multifaceted, and cold calling and canvassing and email campaigns. Here's one thing, and it amazes me, Kevin, a lot of brokers don't have this. And when I was a broker with Stahlback Company, Roger moved me to San Diego. So I was an experienced broker, but I knew no one in town. I didn't know, boo about the marketplace. So the first thing I did, and I was very fortunate, I was at some meeting, I met one of the top commercial real estate architects in town. And we struck up a conversation. He liked me, I liked him. I told him I was new to the San Diego area. And I said, do you mind helping me set up a networking team so that I can be more plugged into my community, plugged into the information going on in the marketplace? So that's the first thing I did. And it was exceedingly important in my commercial real estate career. So I started with him, and then he knew a good MEP. He knew a good commercial real estate attorney. So I literally used him. He was a 25-year, veteran of the San Diego marketplace. And then he brought in all these other skilled people to our group. And then we met on a regular basis. We'd meet once a month. We'd rotate offices. So I'd host it one month, then the architect the next month, the attorney the next month. And we do two things. Number one, we'd share information in the marketplace very confidentially, right? So even though I was a 1-year veteran of the San Diego marketplace, I knew more information going on in the commercial real estate marketplace in San Diego than probably a 25-year veteran, simply because I was tapping into all these veterans and all these other skill sets that had market information that they would share with me. So one, it made me very smart in my marketplace. And then number two, we shared leads, okay? And some of the leads were, hey, buddy, I know this company, they're growing, they need additional real estate, give them a call, use my name. Or, hey, buddy, I know about this company, don't use my name, but they're growing like a weed. Here's the person you need to talk to, give him a call.
Yeah, yeah. That was my goal this year, was to start doing like-kind businesses like the CPA market and things of that nature. Because I noticed last year that a couple of really good referrals came from these folks. And so I completely agree with that. We've talked about it a couple times, buddy, and you might get to it in your slide, but call reluctance. I don't like when people hang up on me, buddy. I don't like when people say, stop calling me, buddy. I just don't like rejection. It is not of my human nature. And I'm joking, but I'm so serious. I'm actually saying that for myself. But I've learned to try to force myself to call. And my secret, for at least in my own head, is to provide something of value, offer free evaluation of the value of their real estate or something of that nature, or just ask a simple question. Hi, this is Kevin Rouse, Kevin Rouse Commercial. Notice you have this apartment complex over here, and this is paraphrase. I have clients looking for it. Market is hot. Are you thinking about selling it? I know that's a yes or no question, and they say don't do that. But I just wonder, you have any advice for those that are calling these folks as far as call reluctance? I know that's a big issue that not a lot of people talk about, call reluctance.
No, I mean, the simple fact is, Kevin, that no one likes to cold call, okay? And I probably have done more cold calling than the vast majority of the brokers. In fact, I logged it, I tracked it. I'd done 250,000 cold calls, in this time period, during my commercial real estate career. And I didn't like cold calling. I don't like rejection either. But here's what you got to weigh: is your desire to make money stronger than your reluctance of cold calling? Okay. And if your reluctance of cold calling is stronger than your make money, you're not going to do it. But I simply said, okay, and I tracked it. So I knew, okay, if I had 5 or 6 rejections on average, the 7th one was going to be productive. Okay. So if I got through 4 or 5 no's, I knew the 6th or 7th one on an average basis, making X number of calls, during the week, was going to yield me good prospects. So my motivation was stronger to make money than my dislike of cold calling. And then number 2, I leveraged it out. And I was a good cold caller, and I could train these college students literally in a day and a half. They were a good cold caller. And it's a very simple formula, because in a cold call, especially for commercial real estate, there's only 3 or 4 major objections you're going to hear. And I would train my guys and say, okay, here's the objections you're going to hear. And I talk about it in my book. Basically agree with their objection. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but basically they're trying to hit you with a bomb. They think it's going to blow you up, but now you're agreeing with their objections. So like maybe they may say, I'm not interested in commercial real estate right now, whatever it may be. You say, I can totally understand that with the COVID virus going on right now, you need to focus on your core business. And then we go, yeah, of course that's exactly why I'm calling you, Kevin. I'm your outside source to be able to make sure this asset that you have on your books, be it an office building or the real estate expense on your own. So I'd take their no, agree with it, and then come back with a firm close. And the way I could train my brokers, Kevin, there was only 3 or 4 major objections they would hear. They were all ready for it. And literally during the call, they'd hold up their finger. I'm getting objection number 2. And when they get that objection, they were ready to agree with it, come back with a stronger selling reason of why we need to continue to talk. And by simply doing that, Kevin, we increase the success on, i.e. getting a meeting or getting a quasi prospect in the pipeline by 300 to 400%. Because most brokers will call up people, hear the objection and go, oh, I'm sorry to bother you, and then hang up. Exactly. Well, if you do that, you got to make 4 times as many calls as I do. I call it the agree, deflect their objection, and come back with a powerful close.
Yeah, I just want to encourage those out there. I do not. I mean, it's akin to death. I can speak in front of 1,000 people and love it, but that one-on-one cold call is fear. So a couple things that I know I've done. I actually have looked up and purchased over the years scripts that I modify on myself just to kind of go over them just to have something to say. If you Google sales scripts and things of that nature, you can find plenty of those out there for free. The other thing I've done is there are tables out there with different types of rejections that you will get, to Buddy's point. And so you can kind of study those and kind of have your mind. If you're more prepared for that, I still am not doing enough calls, but I'm letting you know that when I do, I try to get my whole desk. And then the other thing I've learned, Buddy, for whatever reason, if I make calls standing up, I'm not as afraid. I don't know if that's a Kevin thing or what, but if I make calls, I put my thing on here and I make calls standing up. I don't know if it's because I'm a tall guy or something. I have no idea, but it just makes me feel better about it. So I'll be interested, for those of you out there that make calls, any suggestions that you guys might have via chat. But mine is standing up. That's my biggest contribution.
Totally agree. In fact, when I did my cold calling and my team did theirs, they also stood up for another reason, not just confidence, but really enthusiasm. When you're standing up and you're talking and you're pitching somebody versus trying to stare at a mirror, I mean, give me a break, Kevin. Don't do that. Don't stare at a damn mirror and try to make a cold call, right? So my guys were standing up, their hands were moving, they were talking, just like they were in front of the person making a pitch. And that is a huge key on cold calling, i.e. the energy that you're going to have is doubled when you stand up.
Absolutely. And Michelle says, thank you for mentioning this. Cold calling is not my strong point either. She says she'll try the standing up. She just, and then Teresa said, actually the webinar presentation on 1031s for Clara Maddox, Keller Williams, Corbindale yesterday. So I think she's shouting out Keller Williams commercial, and then also 1031s as a method of calls, you know, as far as information is concerned.
Absolutely.
Samantha says, I use the Wonder Woman pose, hands on hips before making a difficult call, having a difficult discussion. I love Sam. Our Sam is on our board and our former education chair. So Sam, is this you're talking about this with the elbows out? I think that's the Wonder Woman pose. Yeah. We're going to be serious now. I like that. Great. I love that, Sam.
And then on that point is time blocking, Kevin, because
yes,
you can't be successful at cold calling trying to make one or two, diving into your emails and then going back to your calling. You need to time block it. It needs to be a dedicated hour or whatever the time block you have on your schedule. And all you're doing is outgoing calls. Don't take incoming calls. Don't go to your voicemail, whatever it may be. You need to be laser focused, be in a rhythm, because you're going to find when you're making your cold calling, you're going to have a rhythm and you're going to be able to flush that no. Okay, you're going to get some, I don't care who you are, you're going to get some rude people on the line, especially today with the COVID going on right now. Okay, right? So there's going to be people scared, nervous, frustrated, whatever it may be. Don't take it to reflection on you. Move on to the next prospect. And by having that time block, you can flush that bad prospect, and then hopefully the next one will be the positive one.
And I can send this out before we end. There's some technology out there that allows you to kind of auto dial and do some other stuff that's available that makes it much easier than back in the day of just having to type those numbers out. All right. So business development. I know this was a Keller Williams thing, but just having a CRM in general, I think is important.
Yeah, you can't have a prospecting database without a CRM. You know, when I started, Kevin, in the old, I had literally a Rolodex, okay? So I had little index cards and yeah.
I don't have one, but I used to staple it on the Rolodex where you flip it. Yeah. These are my business cards, right.
Hopefully, Kevin, you're more digitized now.
Yeah. I have a CRM, but I'll let people know the best CRM is one that you will use. Because I spent a whole lot of time trying to figure out one, and then I realized just pick one and use it. So
that is the exact answer. There's not a best one out there. It's the one that you use is the best one for you. And you know, the prospecting databases, they're all out. I mean, today's technology, there's so many, you know, county records are all online now. You can look up ownership. There's a great tool that I use now, especially in my current business, called Parlay, P-A-R-L-A-Y. It's a very, very affordable tool. It's basically an aggregator of all of the tax records on a national level. So I can literally look up a property in Houston, I can look up a property in Washington, wherever it may be, and then see who owned the property, it's all the tax records of it, what it's sold for, who owns it, his address, so on and so forth. And it's $299 a year, and it has a huge feature. It's called a Google Earth overlay. So I can literally pull it up on Google Earth. It will show me the real estate property outlined in green, the property that they own. So it's a great tool. All my guys use it, especially if you have more of a regional or national practice, which I have right now. Parlay is a huge tool.
Yeah, and Parlay, you had Prospect Now, which was existed back then. It's still there. I use Prospect Now pretty frequently to try to drive down. I would say their phone number data is about 50 to 60% accurate. Nobody's 100%.
Exactly.
LexisNexis, which is expensive. If you want to try to drill down on those LLCs and those looped-in LLCs to try to get down to Buddy, who owns 3 LLCs, those LLCs own 3 other LLCs. You know, those are some, and I'll put those in the chat as well. There's quite a few things out there to be able to build your database. And then CCIM, they have business data if you remember, you have availability to that as well, where you can pull lists as well. So yeah, you're right. There are quite a few avenues out there that exist now that didn't exist actually when you wrote this book. So
exactly, exactly.
all right, here we go.
And then as we talked about, I mean, you got to work your database. Don't play with it, okay? I mean, this is the lifeblood of your business. This is your future revenues, your future commissions. Cherish it, nurture it, feed it, work it. Don't just play with it, okay? These are your prospects and your future clientele, and treat it as such.
Absolutely. All right.
And then just a little acronym: cold calling plus accountability will equal production. 100% guaranteed. Even today, right now. In fact, I have a team, Kevin, in my current business of probably 5 guys, and they're on the phone all day, every day, trying to dig up leads for us to be able to purchase additional properties. So calling plus accountability will equal production.
Yeah, and for those of you, I'm not doing it now, but I highly recommend, especially if they're in a different product type and you don't want to feel the whole competition thing, feel free to create an accountability group on cold calls and report back once a week and have prizes and things of that nature. Who made the most calls, who got the most meetings. That makes it kind of fun. It takes some of the fear out. I've done that over the years. I'm not doing it now, but I've done that over the years. That kind of takes especially for you competitive folks out there, those last dance Michael Jordan competitive folks out there, anytime you can put some type of, you get a payday bar or something at the end if you got more meetings than everybody else in the office or some other brokers, that's fun. Maybe that's the CCIM idea. Maybe we need to have one of those. Just thought that out there.
And Kevin, I actually reversed it. I wrote a business goal to my manager, and I said, it's $1,000 check. And if I don't create this many new prospects, this many cold calls, this whatever, and here's my tracking mechanism, cash the check or give it to your favorite charity. So wow. I was highly incentivized myself to make the calls, hold myself accountable. I had that $1,000 check sitting out there that my boss was going to cash if I didn't do what I said I was going to do.
All right, y'all heard it here. I'm looking for $1,000 checks. I'll hold them. Just make them out to me or to cash. We're good to go. We're good to go. All right, we're gonna step. So we talked about some of this.
Yeah, that part of your day, cold canvassing, meetings. Again, this chart shows I could train a college student in literally 2 weeks to be a really good cold caller. So it's not brain surgery. It's simply talking to people, being personable, knowing the 3 or 4 major objections, having these scripts in your head, and being able to hopefully identify those prospects versus clientele.
And at the very bottom, a minimum of 2 hours per day. That's the hard part, guys, with the phone calls and managing by inboxes I was talking about earlier, trying to block that out.
And again, we would kind of break it down as, okay, to get $150,000 of production, how many new clients, how many new LOIs, how many new canvassing and prospects, and then how many cold calls. So we literally broke it down for each one of my brokers that are working on my team to kind of know, okay, 100,000, here's how hard you have to work on your prospect. You want to make 200,000, 300, and now with digital technology, that's greatly enhanced because it's not just calling, it needs to be all the other mechanisms, blogging and your websites and all these different tools out there, using social media to be able to help you get to that top GCI number. And we've talked about this, Kevin. We can probably fly through that. I mean, there's so many tools out there today that, again, this was old.
Right, no, I mean, you know what? I kept it. I didn't change it. You sent it to me. You asked me to kind of take a look at it. I kept it because, to me, you're still doing these things. The tools may be a little bit more sophisticated, but my website. I do a weekly podcast. I know podcasting is, and that just creates brand recognition. And then I use, thanks to David Critchmar out there. He's on the call. That he's a residential loan officer. But I use a text to group app that he recommended that makes my text look like I'm texting you individually to a group about either what's going on or property or things of that nature. But all of that is in that kind of technology deal, just to kind of set you apart. I don't overuse it. To me, that's important as far as e-blast and text. I try to be respectful enough to not blast you. I say that as some people probably say, you know, you're spamming me, Kevin, but I try not to overdo it, but I think it's important to keep your mind. And what I found, especially with e-blast, is I might send it to Buddy. Buddy's not interested, but he knows someone else, and they send. I might not get the phone call to the fourth email forward, you know, with the e-blast. But all of this to me is important if you're going to follow up with the leads.
Yeah. And Gary talks about it in his book, and we really wrote about it in Shift Commercial. You know, it typically takes X number of touches, and a touch may be an email, it may be a phone call, it may be, you know, a mailer, it may be whatever. There's multiple ways to touch your prospects to convert them to a client. Okay, so given your market area, given your area, it's not just one touch anymore. It's going to be probably 4, 5, 6 touches of this prospect to convert them to a client.
If I remember correctly, based on his research, actually from your alma mater, there were a couple of professors, 33 touches a year. Touches doesn't necessarily mean phone talk, but 33 touches a year in one way, shape, or form builds a long-lasting relationship with a client. So phone call, text, email, a direct mail, things of that nature. That 33 touches a year is kind of the plus and minus on that from some Baylor professors.
Okay, so now you've got the prospect, you converted them to what I call a hot prospect. How do you convert that prospect into a client? And you know, I'm a big believer in Mike Lipsey. He actually trained me as a commercial real estate broker many, many years ago. In fact, he still trains. He trains a lot of my Keller Williams commercial brokers. He's kind of my go-to guru, and he talks about this, you know, being bold, being very creative, being the market expert, accountability. Your clients today, or your prospects, hopefully becoming a client, desperately want accountability. And how are you touching the prospects to fill up my office building? If I've got, you know, 40% vacancy, what are you doing to be able to take that from, you know, 40% vacant to hopefully 5 or 10% vacant? And Mike talks about it ad nauseum in creating touch campaigns and callings and open houses and prospects and people like that. He's a master at it. He taught me and trained me. I still use it today in a lot of my stuff. You know, when you're pitching somebody, let's say you got an office building listing and he's got, you know, 30, 40% vacancy, say, look, either you hire me or the guy down the street's going to hire me, and I'm going to be taking tenants out of your building to his building or vice versa. So it's your call. Hire me or the competition.
That's a script for you right there. Either you hire me, or I'm going to take your, you know, wow. That's, yeah.
Well, they want to hear that. They want to hear confidence.
Aggressive,
they want to hear boldness. They want to hear creativity. And so if I was pitching an office building, I would absolutely use that today and say, if you don't hire me, the guy down the street's going to hire me. And guess what? I'm going to be calling your tenants in your building to pull them out and bring them to your competitor's building.
Yeah. Hey, so just a time check here, guys. It's right at 10 o'clock, and we set this up for just over an hour. We only have about 3 to 4 slides left. But as we start towards the end of the presentation, if you have any questions, again, chat, the Q&A, or feel free to raise your hand if you want to ask Buddy a question directly, and I can call on you as we come to an end. One of the questions we got in the Q&A was, what are VAs? VAs are virtual assistants, Lee, virtual assistants. So just imagine having an assistant that sits at a computer, and the way I always describe it is they can do everything that anybody that's physically sitting with you can do with a computer and a phone, but they can't go anywhere. So they can't go pick up your dry cleaning or go to that property, but they can answer your phones. They can do everything that you need them to do via computer as well. So that's what a VA is. virtual assistants.
Yeah.
All right.
Next slide.
Sure.
Yeah, and you know, this was part of my presentation.
Yeah.
Really only work on exclusives, and a lot of brokers tell me, you know, they tell the prospect, hey, I only work on exclusives. Wrong pitch. You need to tell them why it's in their best interest to work on an exclusive basis, okay? So you flip it around, and I've seen senior brokers, Kevin, go to a prospect and say, well, I only work on exclusives, and he doesn't care about that. He cares about what does an exclusive basis help me lease at my building, sell my building, whatever it may be, versus more of an open market listing arrangement. So a broker only has a limited amount of time. You can't waste your time on open listings. So there's still a lot of brokers out there trying to do that, and it's just a bad business model. Don't do it. But the way to sell exclusives is convince the client it's in their best interest to work on an exclusive basis.
Absolutely.
I think the next slide talks about that.
Absolutely. You can run around, oh, I found you the perfect building. Oh yeah, I was working with 4 other brokers. They brought me the same building. I'm already under contract. That's the worst phone call to have. And you're hurt like you got jilted, you know, like you didn't love me. You know, so
Right.
the exclusive makes the difference.
And the bottom statement, you know, it's better to get 110%. This is what you're telling the prospect, fully accountable effort from one brokerage team than to have 5 unaccountable brokers giving you 10 or 20% each.
Absolutely. So a couple of people have asked, are we going to send out a recording of this? I am recording it, and with Buddy's permission, I will. We can. He's just giving us the thumbs up, so that we have permission. Post this. I'll give it to Ginger to send out to those that missed it with a YouTube link. So yes, I am recording. Yes.
Next slide. And this really just standing out from the competition. We kind of, here's the key that I had, and actually Roger Staubach taught me this, okay? And we actually instituted it on a really a nationwide basis. So we were tenant reps, okay? And we were competing with CBRE and JLL and Cushwake and all the other different brokers teams out there. And they were all really good competitors, okay? These guys were smart. They were very sharp. And we were all trying to vie for this business, i.e. this tenant rep assignment with this corporation. So one of the key differentiators for us was we would end our presentation with the prospect by saying, you've interviewed great firms, very talented, very smart guys, you know, don't poo-poo the competition. That never is usually very helpful. But then say, we totally believe in our services. In fact, we so much believe in our value add to you, Mr. Client, that we will 100% guarantee our commissions. And it was very simple. Our exclusive listing arrangement that we had with every one of our prospects, Kevin, would have at the very end this type of guarantee of services clause. It basically said, if the client at the end of the transaction wasn't totally satisfied with our services, our performance, whatever it may be, they could access 0 to 100% of the commission. That means my $20, $30, $40, $100,000 commission that I'm going to make on this transaction, if the client did not feel at the end of the transaction that I earned it, I would write them a check for 100% of the commission amount. Now it sounds bold, right? Yeah, very, very bold.
Yeah, because I can see everyone, especially those that might have kind of looked at their inbox all of a sudden say, what did he say, give money back? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But guess what? In 20 years of doing this, Kevin, I never had one client access my commissions. Not one. Now, did I have some clients I had to fire? Yes. It was kind of a mutual arrangement. I fired them. But in 20 years, I never had one client access my commissions because I gave them 110% efforts. I was going to run through a wall, and they don't expect perfection, but they do expect 110% effort. And every one of my clients got 110% effort. We run through a wall for them. We'd service them to the nth degree. And I would tell them, I'm going to be thinking about your business and how we create leverage or whatever we're doing at 1 o'clock in the morning when I wake up at night, okay? You're gonna get that type of commitment. And I would show it to them, we would deliver it to them. And again, in 20 years, I never had one prospect. And here's a simple math, okay, Kevin?
Mm-hmm.
What does second broker get paid on a commission? 0. Only first place gets paid. So these other 2 or 3 brokerage firms got 0 trying to represent this client or so first place only paid. I wanted first place. I didn't want second place. I didn't want third place. I wanted first place. So this guarantee had some risk in it, no question. But again, in 20 years, I never had one access my fees. So to me, I'd rather come in first place and take that risk than come in second place and never get hired.
That is definitely aggressive. Someone asked whether you put that in writing or did you say it verbally, but you put
in writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we're kind of in with this. W.H. Murray, he's you know, the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves to. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never have otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issue from that one decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness, boldness, boldness has genius, power, and magic in it.
So essentially action is what I've learned. I have a tendency to overanalyze because of my engineering background, and I'm gonna get the perfect mail out. I'm gonna do the perfect e-blast. I'm gonna do, and I just realized over the years that, man, just do it. You know, if you didn't catch a comma or you accidentally misspelled a word, you know that's not great, but do it because at the end of the day, one of my core beliefs is that we're really in the lead generation business. Real estate is how we apply our craft, but we really are in the lead generation. If you can learn to lead generate, it really doesn't matter the market. And that's why this book was so effective for me back in 9, 10, was that I just had to really, kind of concentrate and get back to the basics of lead generation. That's the reason I'm just so glad when you sent it to me that was a majority of your presentation was this kind of old school blocking and tackling. I could see the list of people that are joining us, and we have brand new brokers on here, and we have some what I'll call wise veterans on the list as well. And so I know some of the wise veterans might be like, oh, I know some of this stuff, but so did I, and I was dog paddling. And so I want to encourage everybody to kind of just get back to the basics. The world is not over. I know we have COVID, and I posted a meme the other day that showed the guy from The Office looking through the blinds, and the meme said, we just got over this COVID stuff, and now here come the killer hornets. That are killing, like, come on, man, 2020, can I have a refund? I want my money back. But, I just want to thank you, buddy, again for spending the time with us today. And just would be curious, everyone, if you have any questions as we come to an end, please feel free to ask those and submit those. If afterwards, again, I'll get Ginger to send out a recording of this. But any final comments, buddy, as we come to a close? Yeah, and I want to leave with one final. Just make sure the stuff you're working on today has a viable conclusion. We only get paid on closing transactions, right? So put your broker hat on, evaluate the deal, and make sure, in your expert opinion, it has a good chance of closing. And on that note, my company, we're the largest privately held cell tower company in the U.S. I am flush with cash. I got equity, I got debt, literally billions of dollars with a B. And my guys are calling around all around the country to buy wireless assets that are installed on the rooftop of a hotel, office building, whatever it may be. So right now, hotels, they're dead, right? Okay. Vacancy rates are at, 80, 90%. Yeah. Exactly. So we're calling these smaller hotel owners that may have an AT&T lease on their roof or in their backyard, in the back of their lot. They can sell me that revenue. I've got the cash.
we'll close on it quickly, and then we become their marketing partner. So let's say they got AT&T on the roof. Well, we're experts at getting Verizon on the roof and T-Mobile on the roof as well. So number one, we're going to provide them with basically a lump sum payment. I'm buying their $2,000 a month rental payment that AT&T has been paying them for the last 1, 2, 5 years. I'm going to pay them a lump sum for that amount of money. But then number two, and probably more importantly, we're going to help market their building to go get AT&T or Verizon on there as well. So now they have incremental income. And then hopefully this cash lump sum I'm paying them right now helps them get through this COVID, helps them get to the next point where vacancy rates start to hopefully come down and occupancy rates go up. I can get them to phase two. So any wireless assets out there, I've got a team of guys will work with you. You don't have to have a listing. All you got to do is tee up the opportunity and say, here's the pitch, Kevin. Hi, Mr. Johnson. I'm Buddy Norman. I'm working with the largest privately held cell tower wireless owner in the United States. They're actively acquiring wireless revenues around the country. I see you have AT&T or whoever it may be. Have you thought about a lump sum payment, i.e. selling that revenue stream to my client and then having my client then help you market your property to get incremental revenues on that property? That's the pitch. It's very, very simple. I'm buying assets literally anywhere in North America, or anywhere in the US.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. We'll close quick, probably 30 to 45 days. You can tell the prospect, don't worry about a listing agreement. My client is going to take care of the commission on the buy side. And I'll pay you 3-4% on anything you find for us.
I appreciate that. And for those of you that are out there looking for a script, anytime a cold call happens where you can bring somebody money and they don't have to really do anything, that's a pretty easy script to do in my Wonder Woman stance. Shout out to Sam again. Buddy, thank you and we didn't talk about your current business, but thank you for reminding us that there are other ways to be able to monetize and do that. So give Buddy a call or give, and Buddy, what's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
Probably my office email, and I'll send it to you, but I can verbalize it right now.
Sure.
It's bnorman, BNORMAN, at Vertical Bridge, all one word, VERTICALBRIDGE.com.
All right. And I typed it as well and sent it to everybody in the chat, so you guys have it, just in case you didn't write it down. Any final questions, guys? Those that are on? Any final questions?
Can I give the crew one more idea too?
Sure, absolutely.
Think outside the box. In fact, there are 2 enterprising brokers in the Houston area that cold called me, okay, and said, hey, you own this tower property in Houston. My client would like to buy a piece of the land around your tower. I said, sure. So I've got 2 deals right now in Houston. Enterprising, hardworking, cold calling broker called me. They found the ownership. They saw it was owned by Vertical Bridge. Mm-hmm. One property is $400,000. I'm paying them, I think, a 5% commission. And then the other property is a $6 million property, and he's also getting a 5 or 6%. So do the math on it. He's making a lot of money simply by working hard, thinking outside the box, and there's opportunities out there, guys. Yeah.
So Buddy has me ready to do this. I'm ready, guys. I got my
stand up.
Yeah. Hold on, Samantha. Here you go. I'm ready. I'm about to start making calls. I'm ready. Let me see here. We have any? Michelle, I can send you that information on email drip separately. What are some systems we use for email drip campaigns? I currently use a CRM called Cloze, CLOZE. It's email based, meaning that we do a lot of communications via email, and so it does reminders, it does drip campaigns, it does manages your deals and the whole nine. So that was actually referred to me by another CCIM folks. Shout out to ICO Commercial. guys, they actually referred that to me, and I did it. So close, CLOZE.com is one that I can think of off the top of my head. Let me see. I just want to make sure we got all of our questions answered. I think we did. So, I got a hand raised. Hold on. Let's see here. Who's raising their hand? Lee is raising their hand. All right, Lee. Unmute yourself, Lee. Leanne. Let's see. Leanne, I see you. You just need to unmute. While Leanne is trying to unmute, any other questions? John asked, what are the market rates on the cell tower leases?
It's probably going to be around 14 to 16 times annual cash flow. So let's do the math. So $2,000 is probably an average rental rate that AT&T may be paying. So $2,000 times 12 times 15, that's a $360,000 lump sum payment for that $2,000 a month cash flow. So it's not just insignificant money. That $300,000 could mean I can keep my doors open, I can keep my property, I can sell it, put $300,000 in my pocket to help make more, whatever it may be. So it's a significant, amount of capital.
Got you. And Leanne said that was a mistake, so she didn't have a question. All right. Well, guys, it's 10:20. I'm going to go ahead and call it. Buddy, thank you so much. We really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking out the time for this. I appreciate this. And again, you never know what happens. You wrote this book, what now, is it 12 years ago, 12, 13 years ago? Yeah, and it saved me during that time. Hopefully this was helpful to everyone. We would love your feedback, guys, on this session and just in general as far as other sessions that you might want to see. And just a quick poll, if you could let us know whether you guys in June would want to do a live or go back to our live luncheons. We're trying to figure that out as we try to figure out this whole social distancing thing. So if you could give Ginger a feedback, you would have received an email from her on the registration of this. We're just trying to figure out, how to move forward in this quarantine time, whether there's an appetite for going back to our live luncheon monthly. We usually have plus or minus 100 folks at those luncheons, and so we just ask for your feedback. So please give us that feedback as well. And again, finally, buddy, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Gavin, keep up the great work, my friend, and come to South Florida. Dinner's on me.
Oh, I'm there. I want to. I'm already inviting myself to your house too. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. I'm going to end the meeting now.
Take care.
All right, thanks.